So for this module, we're going to do something a little bit different, which I hope you'll learn a lot from. We're going to do a live case study. I have here in the studio with me one of my mentees, an MBA student from the Yale School of Management, who's going to practice pitching in front of you. She's going to introduce herself, and her pitch will tell you all about her work and her idea. And then I'm going to come back and share with you some critiques and some tips and analysis, and we can debrief together.
Hi everyone, my name is Belinda Lay, and I am the Interim Executive Director at Act to Change. Act to Change is a 501c3 nonprofit working to end Asian American and Pacific Islander bullying. We have our history stemming from 2018 when we were formed into a 501c3 nonprofit, but our history actually goes all the way back to 2015 when we were a public awareness campaign under the Obama administration. Ever since then, we have grown extremely rapidly into a national org, and we are the only group with this primary focus, focusing on youth activism, the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. We ultimately envision a world where all youth have the opportunity to grow up feeling strong and secure in their identities and feel that they can be proud and supported in that. So why did Act to Change come to be? As I spoke in the previous slide, Act to Change initially started as a public awareness campaign. This was due to a huge need within the AAPI community where we identified areas in which a lot of students were unable to report their bullying incidences due to language, religious, and cultural barriers. Just some of the numbers that you see here in terms of recent incidences, especially due to the pandemic, we've had 10,370 cases of AAPI hate incidences since 2020. 77% of AAPI youth have experienced bullying, and actually within our own survey results, we identified 80% of Asian Americans at some point in their life have experienced bullying in some shape, way, or form. As a result, looking at these numbers, we are motivated every single day as a fully volunteer board in order to continue working to create a world where youth can feel safe and secure in their identities. Our team is a fully volunteer team. Up until recently, we have had 4 managing directors made up of our chair, Malik Pancholi, Rebecca Lee, Jill Yu, and me, along with board members stemming from the public sector to the private sector, entertainment, to nonprofits and the legal world. Jill Yu and I have recently stepped into the interim executive director position. We all bring an incredibly diverse set of backgrounds, both from across industries, across age groups, and across areas of expertise. But one thing that really binds us together is our passion for making sure that AAPI youth are able to fight bullying within their schools and outside of it. Our advisory council is also made up of some very passionate leaders within their industries. This includes Tan France, from Queer Eye, Michelle Lee, who is an editor at Allure magazine, recently moved to Netflix, Bing Chen of Gold House, Sarah Ha of Teach for America, Hudson Yang of Fresh Off the Boat, and Philip Chun of MMF. We, as mentioned, focus on bullying, but how do we do that? Well, we span across 4 different pillars. That includes programming, curriculum, policy, and data. And if you do a double click into that, programming, as you can see, is our biggest umbrella. We have multiple events, oftentimes every month, in relation to how parents and school administrators can help prevent bullying within their schools, how youth can feel activated, and our signature programs being our Day Against Bullying and Hate, which we will dive into further later, and our Changemaker Summit, which happened recently in October. All of these are annual events, and we continue to grow rapidly in terms of viewership and in attendance, live attendance, both in person and virtually. Second is curriculum design. We have our signature Homeroom with Tan France series, which was a curriculum that Act to Change board members designed in order for Tan France to visit schools across the country and talk about bullying within the classroom. We also support policy, a lot of policies that address anti-hate within the Asian American Pacific Islander community, ways to uplift youth, both from a grassroots and a state and federal level. And then lastly, data. We recently released our Asian American bullying survey, which found that 80% of Asian Americans have experienced bullying at some point in their lives. And we continue to support and fight for data disaggregation within the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Diving a little bit more into our programming, as I mentioned, our Day Against Bullying and Hate is our biggest program of the year. In the past 2 years, we have titled it United We Stand, and this is a day on May 18th, which May is also Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we have leaders from the business sector, from the private sector, from nonprofits, influencers. So even in the picture, we see a couple of folks that you might recognize here to really talk about ways that they have experienced bullying in their lives and how they want to inspire youth going forward. We also have youth leaders that join us every year, and we've had over 200 orgs sign on as partners for this Day Against Bullying and Hate, and we've also had 40 plus cities and states across the country release letters of acknowledgement, orders stating that they acknowledge the Day Against Bullying and Hate in the country. So this is also a little bit of numbers in terms of how fast this Day Against Bullying and Hate has really grown. We've also experienced a lot of media coverage. So this is by far our biggest signature event. And as our sponsors, this is where a lot of sponsors are able to see themselves be highlighted as part of a sponsor for our organization and a partner as well. Another program that I had mentioned earlier is our homeroom anti-bullying workshop series with TAN France. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. TAN France, as an advisory council member, has generously devoted and donate his time to us in order to be able to chat with over 100 students, and this number is growing across the country, through Act 2 Change's curriculum design, and talk about ways that students can really feel more confident in their identities and ways that they can be better bystanders for their friends and themselves when they experience bullying. Next is also our Youth Ambassador Program. This program actually just launched earlier this year in partnership with the Asian American Foundation. We have had over 70 students impacted by the Youth Ambassador Program. This really focuses and zeroes in on youth leader activation. So when I talk about activation, this means that they're having weekly conversations with us and going through identity exploration. And they're also working on capstone projects within their communities, whether that be Oakland, Chicago, or New York, on ways to better their local communities and be able to uplift one another. Clearly, we have a lot of programs, and between programming, curriculum design, policy, and data, there is a lot to cover, and our impact speaks for that. We have impacted, through our Homeroom with TAN program, over 100 students, and 98% of them actually say that they feel more confident in their identities after speaking with TAN through our curriculums. And they also almost 100% of them want to be able to help fight and prevent bullying within their schools. Additionally, we have numbers behind our youth conference that happened, as mentioned, this past October. This is where we really focus on uplifting youth. So a lot of our youth leaders versus our May 18th event, where we have influencers and leaders across the country talk about bullying. For our October event, it's about youth talking about bullying and how they want to activate and be better supporters for one another. Other data behind this includes we also do digital art exhibits with the Smithsonian, our AAPI curriculum that we have uploaded on our website and is being constantly updated, and then our youth internships in partnership with Kapal every year during the summer. Lastly, this is how you can find us. We are on email, on website, and all of the various socials. TikTok is something that we are rapidly growing as well, so definitely give us a follow. Lastly, together we can end bullying.
So I think Belinda was awesome. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge that and give her a big hand. So here are my comments on Belinda's presentation. So I think it was less than 10 minutes, which is a good length. She didn't necessarily follow the exact outline I shared with you in this module, which is okay. Again, that's just an example outline. She did cover the main points. So here are some of the things that I think she did well. I think it was really important that she talked about the problem. She had statistics. She said 70 to 80% of Asian American and Pacific Islander youth are bullied, or 80% of people over the course of their lifetime. And she said specifically that they're unable to report bullying due to language, culture, or religious barriers. So she's talking about the overall societal challenge and also to the specific pain points and their experiences. She could, I mentioned she could have started with a story of one person and circled back to them at the end. That's one thing she could have done differently, but it's not necessarily. I think she did a great job introducing the problem and introducing the vision. I like that they had a very specific vision that was very aspirational. Now, I thought she went straight to the team after that, and I felt she went to the team early because when she talked to us about the problem and the solution, I wanted to know how. Tell me more about the solution. How does it work? Now, again, people feel differently about where to put the team. I usually put it a little bit later, but I wanted to go straight into the how the idea works, what we do. Now, when she did talk about the team, I thought it was great that she mentioned the advisory council. She said that it was an all-volunteer team. They're actually currently in the process of recruiting for their first executive director, which is really exciting. And along those notes, I would have liked to see more about how the organization is going to grow. So Belinda shared specific programs and events and how they grew over time. But I want to know, A, what is the origin story? How did it start? It actually has a cool origin story. I think it was founded out of the White House. I think Belinda was doing an internship there or something, and then they registered their own organization. And B, where is this all going? What is their dream for the future? What are their targets? And she did share about the revenue model, that sometimes they hold these events and there are sponsors. So I kind of got a sense of the financial viability, but I would like more specifics, like how much money do you have? It turns out they've actually raised a lot of money. They've raised over $1 million. I would want to hear that. Again, and what are your goals? Where are you trying to go in 5, 10, 20 years as an organization, as the financials, and also in terms of outcomes? So Belinda did talk about outcomes. She talked about direct service, like reaching X number of students, activating youth. I would have liked her to talk more about, for me, what I think is the true impact of this work, which is the framework change, right? This is not just about direct service. They're never going to be able to scale the direct service and reach all Asian American youth, but they're trying to change patterns and mindsets and frameworks and trends. And so that's what I want to hear more about. Which brings me to one thing that was really missing, which was the theory of change. I want to know, and that can be part of the origin story, why did you pick these 4 programs? So it's great that you told us how it works and walked through the programs, but why? What makes you think that these particular activities are going to lead to the change that you want to see? So those are the content comments that I have for Belinda. And the last one is the ask. I think she could have been more specific about the ask. So she went through this fabulous presentation, and then she got to her last slide, which says, together we can end bullying. And so she said, and finally, together we can end bullying. I think she could have ended stronger. Be more specific. Make your ask specific to the audience you're presenting to. For example, if you're presenting to a funder, say, we're hoping to raise $1 million in the next 6 months in order to reach 20 times more people, or to introduce a new program, or to expand globally, or something like that. Or you could be pitching to other communities and other grassroots organizations to get them on board and say, our ask is for you to partner with us and do so by doing XYZ. So have a really specific ask. And then you can always circle back to something aspirational, like, with your support, we believe that together we can end bullying. So those are my technical comments. And then I'll end with some comments on her delivery. I thought her delivery was excellent. It was conversational, it was confident, it was natural. She clearly knows this content well. She's built this from the ground up. I did notice that she says or while she's thinking about things. Most people do that, so that's something to watch out for. I noticed she has a shared characteristic with me, which I shared with you in a previous video, which is that I do have a little bit too much hand gestures. So just try to be more mindful about how you use hand gestures and use them on purpose, purposefully. Because I think Belinda and I and many other people, when we're thinking, we kind of think with our hands, so we move around a little bit too much. And it can be both potentially distracting, and also it can indicate a little bit less of confidence. It might indicate a lack of confidence. So be mindful about your hand gestures. Catch yourself if you're saying or too much. And I think that's it. I think that she did dive into a lot of detail into the program. So if you want to make it shorter and tighter, you could give more of a brief overview of the programs. And then during the Q&A, you could go into more detail. But overall, I think Belinda did a fantastic job. I'm super proud of my mentee, both for the work that she's doing and of the way that she shared it with us here today.